I'm Holly, and I want to tell you a little bit about my relationship with Janie Bullard at Distinctive Journeys. My husband and I love to travel, and when we were dating in college, we would drive to the airport and sit and have a coffee and just sit in the airport and watch people go in and come in, and we just got so excited about that. So from a young age, we have traveled, and that's just kind of what we do together. I've always planned my own trips for a good 10 or 15 years until I wanted to go to Turkey. And I started planning. I bought my fedoras, I bought some travel guides, and I was trying to plan the trip. I wanted to go to Istanbul, but I also wanted to go to Ankara in the middle of the country, and it just got to be very problematic to plan this trip. I'd done many trips to Europe. I could get around. I had friends who spoke different languages. I could fax things and call and make arrangements. But Turkey was something that I was having a hard time doing. And some of our friends had just used Janie to plan their trip to Turkey, and they loved it, and they said, "You've got to talk to Janie." Well, I had a folder that I'd been keeping for years on Turkey of things that I wanted to do when I finally got to go there. And there was this place that I wanted to stay in, an area called Cappadocia. It kind of looks like the Flintstones era with all these rocks and people living in caves, and they're modern caves. They have running water and stuff, but the way they build their houses is they just dig out rooms from the rock. And there was a Frenchman who had gone there to this area and bought up several of these houses and opened this bed and breakfast. And I'd read about it years earlier and saved the article, but it didn't say where it was or anything. So I contacted Janie and I told her about this. I was living in Baltimore at the time. Janie was here in Atlanta. And I also contacted some Turkish specialists in New York. And so for about a month, I was emailing and calling these agents in New York and talking to Janie and trying to, plan this 2-3 week trip to Turkey. Janie is the only one who could find that little Frenchman who had these little cute cave rooms that you could stay in. So Janie planned the whole trip for us, and it was the nicest trip we've ever been on. We had a private guide. It was just the two of us, and it was amazing. We learned so much. I'm a good journal keeper. It was like I was in class, but we were there in the out in the open, and it's going where things had happened. We went to Ephesus, we went to Istanbul, to Ankara. We saw the first city in the whole world. It was just invigorating. And we went to Kushadasi our last few days there, and the difference, besides being in a country where I couldn't speak the language and I didn't know how to make the connections between Istanbul and Ankara, Janie arranged all of that with the different flights and the cars and the things that we needed, and helped us, make all that very smooth. But the thing that she can do that I couldn't is, in our hotel rooms, we would have these rooms where we weren't next to the elevator, or we would have a better view, we would have breakfast included, all these things that I wouldn't think about or know to ask about, and she would get these great rooms at a standard rate that I was not able to do. So letting her plan trips for us has been she just gets these little perks that you don't think about, and they just make your trip so wonderful. It blossomed from a regular trip to just an extraordinary trip. So we came home from Turkey, and we were so happy, and it was just a wonderful trip. And so we came home, and not even a month later, Janie called and she says, "Okay, Holly, where are you going next summer?" And I said, "Oh, I think we're going to go back to Italy. We've been there a couple of times, and I can do it on my own." She said, "Okay. How much are your plane tickets?" And at the time, I said, "I think I can get them for around $1,100. She said, "Okay." She called me back in 30 minutes and had gotten them for $740. The same days, the same flight that I wanted. And I said, okay, you can plan the trip. So at first, when I was working with Janie, I didn't have children, and I was very hands-on. I knew exactly where I wanted to stay. I'd researched, I'd read all these books, and I'd say, I want to stay at this hotel, and I want to go here, and I want to do this, and da-da-da. So she would work with me, and she would get these good deals and work all this out. And there were times I'd say, well, I can't find a hotel here, but I really want to stay here. And anyway, so she did all this, and I had wanted, there's a Roman amphitheater in Verona, and they have operas there. And I'm not an opera person. I've never been to an opera, but I just thought it would be neat to go to an opera in a real Roman amphitheater and sit on the stone. And I said, can you get us tickets? She got us 4th row center tickets. It was amazing. It was riveting. It was the first opera we'd seen. It's open air. We're walking through the hallways of this Colosseum with hundreds of people, just like it was 2,000 years ago. And this one opera that we saw, they sing one of the national anthems of Italy. So as they're singing, all the Italians have these candles out, and we had candles. It was amazing. And I just feel like with Janie, she's been able to get me as close to the culture, and she makes me feel, she gives us an experience where we feel like we are living there. We were not sitting with other Americans. We were among the Italians in this opera. It was amazing. And so another thing about that trip that is very important in why I choose to work with Janie is we're doing the Northern Lakes region. So we flew into Milan and we rented a car, we drove up to Lake Como. And at the time we couldn't afford to stay at the Bellagio or the Villa d'Este, which are the two big hotels that you want to stay in. So we just ate lunch there. And Janie said, Holly, you have to go eat lunch at the Villa d'Este. You just have to. It's an experience. And she was right. It was wonderful. So anyway, we stayed at a little town on the other side of the lake in Verona. And actually she helped me find that hotel that was in our price range. And for some reason, this is the one time my husband decided to buy stuff. He never buys stuff. I'm always the one buying little trinkets and souvenirs, and he never buys anything. But this time he bought a couple of pins, a couple of ties, some cufflinks. I mean, he had a sack of stuff. I couldn't believe it. I was so excited that I wasn't the only one wanting stuff and buying stuff. So I guess we put that bag in the closet in Verona. A couple days later, we go on to Verona and then to Venice, and we're in Venice, and I realize that we have left this bag of souvenirs that my husband has bought in Verona. And I immediately called the hotel and tried to explain, room 108, a bag, and they didn't understand, and I didn't speak Italian. So then I go downstairs to the concierge. He calls, nothing. He couldn't. He said, no ma'am, there's no bag, no bag. And so before I left, Janie sent me this little page with our itinerary and different numbers, and she said, if you need anything, call this number. So I called the number, and I told the guy, you know, I'm with Janie Bullard, and he knew exactly who it was. And he said, yes ma'am, I know. And I said, we left a bag in room 108 in this hotel in Verona. And he said, okay. He said, I will meet you on the corner of these two streets when you get to Florence. And I knew where it was because it was near a shop that I'd wanted to go to. And he met us there on the corner with a box and handed me the box of souvenirs that we had left in Verona. And I said, what do I owe you for shipping? Nothing. No, this is our service to you. Thank you so much for traveling with I guess it was Virtuoso would be the connection that he had, that Janie is in this group. It's some type of group. And so from then on, I thought, this woman's planning all of my trips. So for the next few years, I'm real hands-on, and I'm picking every hotel and everything, and she's planning all these trips. And there were times I was like, we can't afford that, so she would work this angle or this. We've been to India. We've been to Africa. We've been, and in Africa, we were in Kenya and Tanzania. We hiked to the top of Kilimanjaro. We've been to Thailand and Cambodia. We've taken our daughter to Thailand and Cambodia. We've been to many countries in Europe. This last summer, well, one other thing I want to say is, so at the beginning I was real hands-on with the hotels, and now I kind of give Janie free rein. I say, okay, this summer we want to go to Denmark. I said, we want to go to Denmark. What do we need? And I said, I know I want to go to Legoland with my daughter. Other than that, you know, what kind of cultural thing do we need? And she just runs with it. And so she sends me the itinerary and what do you think? And I kind of read through it and I'm like, okay, too many churches on this day. My husband and daughter will die. I want to do it, but they can't. So we rearranged everything to fit our family. So, and I think because now I have kids and there's just so much going on, I don't have the time to research. And I also trust Janie, and she just does an amazing job. Janie is amazing. She understands the concept of travel. She, as I said earlier, she can get you past that gatekeeper that I couldn't do. And we've spent a lot of time and energy and money traveling, and she can just do things that I can't. Even if I have 10 books, she has connections that just make things easier and makes your whole trip smoother and takes it to that next level of memorable for the rest of your life. So I just recommend her to anybody.